Paul Dayball from Niagara College, and today I'm going to go over how to do a pretty basic pagination using Adobe InDesign. Now, I'm doing this because this was a handout in my class, but the handout had it was a little older. It had come from an older version of InDesign. So I'm going to do this just to make sure we go over the most up-to-date version of InDesign doing this project. So we start off by creating a new document, create new, and I'm going to work in inches here. So I'm going to go over here to inches. It says that is a new document that is an 8.5, 11, like a US letter page, that it is 3 columns, or 4 columns, 4 columns, and the gutter is 0.1667, which is, 1 P0 or 1 pica. The margins are going to stay the same, and you can open these. If it happens to be closed, you can just click here and open it. Margins happen to stay at a 1/2 inch, and there's no bleed or slug settings. So I go ahead and I say create or OK, and I get a brand new page. The first thing I need to do is create a box in the upper corner here. So I'm going to create a graphics box, and I'm going to create a graphics box somewhere in here. It doesn't really matter the size because I'm going to set the size. It says that it is 1 column wide. I'm going to go back to my first tool up here, which is the selection tool, which allows me to deal with this frame. I'm going to pull that over to 1 column, remembering 1 column does not go across this gutter. Gutters are the space between the columns. Does not go across the gutter. And it says that it is 2.5 inches tall. So I'm going to go up here, select all this, and I'm going to go 2.5, hit enter, and it moved down a little bit. Now, the reason mine moved down is because you can see right here that my reference point up in here, up in the upper left corner here, reference point is in the center. So when I did the sizing, it's centered. I'm going to go back. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to show you that if I put the reference point up in the upper corner here and I go 2.5, the reference points. This stays solid and it moves towards the reference point. So just be aware that if things look kind of weird to you sometimes, check your reference points. I'm now going to put a file in that box. I'm going to have that box selected. I'm going to go up under File and say Place, understanding that Command D is the place, Command D. And I'm going to go find my file. I've put it on my desktop. You can probably have it in your OneDrive or wherever you've got this group of files. Okay, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grab the 2 grads. Now the 2 grads obviously are too large for the piece, but it says that I have to size it down to 41%. Now notice that there are 2 different color boxes. The one box is the blue line on the outside, which is the actual frame, but if I click in the middle, I get this brown. And if I hold on, I'll actually see that I'm getting the rest of the image in there. Now I'll size that up here to 41, and I hit Tab key and it goes down. They both become 41 because this is linked. This is linked, which makes it both the same size. That way we get proportional. And then you see I can just click hold and I can drag that back into the frame. Now there are some shortcuts to that, but for right now let's just do it that way. And then we leave it there. The next thing we need to do is drag a box for the headline. So I'm going to drag a box of any size really, and I'm going to size it. And it says that this frame should actually be the 3 columns wide. So here to here. Here to here. And 1.5 inches tall. 1.5. Or 1.25. Sorry, 1.25. And then I'll just move that up to here. Then I can double click in there and type in update. I'm going to go Command A, select all. Now at this point I'm going to turn on my show invisibles, and I'm going to blow up this area for you so you can see it. I'm going to turn on show invisibles. by going down to the bottom of the type menu and say show hidden characters. And you can see that little hashtag or pound symbol, number symbol, whatever we're going to call that, is there because that's the end of this story. And you want to make sure you don't have returns there and stuff. You always want to end with the hash symbol at the end of whatever a piece of text you have. All right, so I got to have that selected. It now says it's Myriad Pro. I got to go up here and click on this button right here, which moves all of my text stuff to the beginning. It just makes life a lot easier. I know it's over on the line, but I find it easier to do that. So I'm going to type in Myriad. Oh, got to start with an M, not Myriad Pro, and black italic. So there it is, Myriad Pro black italic. Once I do that, it shows me all the different Myriad Pros in here. So I could have just selected any Myriad Pro and then went to black italic. All right, so I'm going to take it up to size. It says that it is 58 point. And that it is centered. And centered I can do right over here. This is centered. And then it says vertical scale of 120. Vertical scale is right here. We don't normally do that. So this is vertical scale of 120, but at least it shows you how to do it. And then it says that it is vertically aligned. So this is centered in the box. Now we don't really need this, but just to show it to you. And then I'm going to vertically align it. Now vertically aligned means that it is going to put this box in the middle of this. There's a few places to do it, but I always find the best place to deal with this is in text frame option. So if you can remember Command B, you'll use this quite often. And this is vertical justification, which is centered. And I put it there. All right, so far so good. It says that I have to create my next text frame. So my next text frame is a 3-column box, and it is going in the bottom corner. So I'm going to just make a box here. I'm going to make that box 3 columns wide. And it is going to be 8.5 tall. You can see that by creating it at the top, I was able to get it to the bottom of 8.5. So basically, it fills this whole space. Now, in there, I have to put some text. So I'm going to click on the box with the first tool, and I'm going to say place. I need the body text. So that rolls in. And then I can set the font. So I'll select all the text. I'll double click in there, or I can click here on the text and come in here. You go Command A. Really important to use Command A. And oh, what's that? That's an extra paragraph return at the end. I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm going to go Command A, select all the text. I'm going to go ahead and set the text to Minion Pro regular 12, and then it wants 14 points of leading. It says that it has to be justified with the last line left. It has a first line indent, which is right here. Remember, right here. Right here, first line indent. Or you could click this button here, and then it would be, all it does is shifts these ends. So I'm going to put here 0.25, first line indent. You see the indent on the first line. And then I have to put the number of columns. Now, here's the interesting part. When you do the number of columns, it's nothing to do with the paragraph or the type or anything like that. This has to do with the way the frame holds text. That's what it does, the way the frame holds text. So I click back with the first tool, get the frame, and then I can do it here. I can go 3 columns here, or I can bring up that. Remember I told you the text frame option box is really important. You can also do it here. And then I'm going to leave the gutter at 0.167, which matches my layout. And then I say OK. So now, look at that, 3 columns. Moving along, we now need to create a frame for the chart. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to get a text tool. I'm just going to create some sort of frame. And it says that that frame for the chart should be 3 columns wide. So it's going to go right here. I'm going to go to the first tool because I need to get the height of the frame correct. It says set the height to 4.4. And once I've got it set up here, I move it into this bottom corner. Now this doesn't make sense, right? You got going around. But we now need to do what is called a text wrap. The best way to do the text wrap is to go over here to typography, right here, set this to typography, and text wrap will show up here. So there it is right there. Now it may be different on yours depending on where it was put, but right here I have text wrap. So if I go to typography, I believe it appears right here. All right. So I'm just going to do a wrap around this. And as soon as I click, it wraps around. Now it mentions that you should put a little more space on the top, and you can see that right here. If you have this, if you have this like this, all of these are going to move. But if you have it with an X through it, you can actually put in the top is 0.1, and you can see that it pushes it away from it and lines up perfectly at the bottom. All right. Now you can see this little extra blue line there. That is the text wrap line. It's showing how far away the text wrap is. Now into that box I have to put the chart. So I'm going to place the chart. What I would do is go ahead and set all the chart text first. Now majority of the chart text is going to be exactly the same. So what I normally do is I Command A, because see this red mark right here? That says that there's text outside of the box. I'm going to show you that it actually is there. So if I pull this down, you can see there's text out here that you don't see. Okay. So if I do a select all, I make it all back to a smaller size, and then I can go ahead and fix up the headlines and stuff. So it is going to be Myriad Pro, and it's regular. So I gotta scroll down here. Regular happens to be right at the bottom. That's Myriad Pro Web. Myriad Pro Regular. There we go. It says that it is 9-point type. I hit Tab. 9.5 points of leading. It says a left line, which is the natural way, so you don't have to do anything. Vertical line, and then vertical align center again. Now, as I said, there's a number of ways to do this. If you click here, there may actually be a setting for it. I normally, I don't usually do it any other way other than bring up the text frame options and vertically align it in the center right here. And what that does is it just gives the same amount of space at the top or the bottom of the type. All right, I'm going to go ahead and set the main headline, this one. It says that it is centered, so I'm going to do a center on that. Well, there's one thing I have missed here is I should do what's called a text inset. A text inset or a left indent would be good too. So if you were to indent all of this to the left, or you could do a text inset. So I'm going to do a indent of all of this, all of that to 0.25. You notice I didn't include the top because I want this to center in the box, and if I do an indent and then I center it, it's actually centering from the indent over. It won't be quite right. So I'm going to center this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead now and set this text to black. and I'm going to get the size correct. So the size will be 13 on 14. That's the size of that one. And then this type here will be slightly different also. I believe that this is just bolded. We'll just bold that for now. Now, when you do the tab settings on this, it actually, the numbers are easy because there's a lot of space between the numbers. It's this up here that's a bit of a problem. So I'm going to do these two lines first, and I'm going to blow this up for you. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to zoom this up. This is the problem area. So I have this selected, and I have to make sure I select that last little mark right there, really important. And I'm going to bring up my tab ruler. So under type, I bring up tabs, and then I can do a centering tab since I want to center these. I'm going to get over here quite a ways because it is quite a ways over. And I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to put one here. Now, I got to bring this back until those in there. Do you see the issue here? It's too tight. Like, it's just too tight in here. So I might even make a change to that later, but for right now, let's just move this across. Don't worry about what you see underneath, other than the numbers will line up underneath, but don't worry about that just yet. We'll just get this spaced out properly, and I think we're doing pretty good there. All right, let me scroll down a bit now. I'm going to bring my tab ruler up here so that that mark lines up with that, because that's the indent. And now all of these numbers are whole numbers. So I can use this tab right here, which is the right flush tab, because they're whole numbers. I'm going to scroll that down just a little bit so I can see where I'm putting them. I'm going to put one of these over each column, and that should solve my number issue. And there's my chart. I'm going to take this last line, I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to put a bit of space before, and I can do that right here. And there are numbers on the actual sheet, but I'm just going to do it. A little bit of space before, like that. And I'm going to drag a line across there. So I go over here to the line tool, right over here, line tool, click once, holding down the shift key, which makes it a straight line. If you hold the shift key while you're drawing, you'll have a constrained movement or a straight line. I'm going to go across, let go of the mouse first, and then I will just put some weight on that line. So right here is the thickness of the line. I'm going to put a 1 point line there. Maybe a half point. It seems a little thick. Okay. And then the actual frame, the actual item. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to the actual frame, and I'm going to put a 1 point mark on that frame. So I can do that right here, 1 point. Okay. Let me zoom out a bit. And we have one last thing to do. We're going to draw a line right here, from here to here. So I'm going to try to get in the center of this, and I'm going to draw a line down like this. I'm going to thicken that line to 20 points, and I'm going to do a hash mark on it. So I'll do a straight hash across. And then the last thing is to make that a color. So I'm going to go to my, I have to change this back to, I'm going to go to advanced so I see it here. I'm going to swatches, and if you don't have those swatches, you can find all of that stuff under window. It's all under here. You can find all that stuff. But you see how this is black? I'm just going to tint that back. I'm going to click on the black here. I'm going to tint it back to about 40%. And that should give me a nice gray mark there. So let me get rid of this ruler. Let me bring this up, and then I'll show you what it actually looks like. See, that's what it's going to look like at the end. All right, that's how that page is accomplished. I I have one more, I have one more thing to put in. I guess that was the little text wrap on the piece here. So I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. I find it down a bit. If you need to bring it up a bit, you can. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in that last piece. I'm sorry about that. One more piece. So I got to put in a picture here. So I will draw a graphics box. It'll tell me what size that graphics box should be. It says it's 1.75 by 2.5, so I'm going to go here. 1.75 by 1.25. All right, now that I have the box created, what I'm going to do is place the object in there. So I'm going to go up under here and say place. And I'm going to place my grad hat in there. Comes in as a Photoshop document, and I should be able to, since it's got a clipping path, I believe. So let's just check that it does. I'm going to go under here to clipping path options. And it says that it has a Photoshop path on it. So if I preview it, there it is. There's the Photoshop path on it. And then I can just say text wrap, same as clipping. And let's see if we push out from that, whether we get a text wrap. There we go. So it just took a second for it to find it. I did a bit of a push out. Now, I have a bit of a problem at the bottom. I've lost there. There's the perfect piece. So I'm going to get my first tool, and I'm going to drag that around until I get it to be about where I want it to be. So I select all this type. I'm finding the type just a little large. I'm going to go check my settings on the type. Yeah, I'm finding that it's just a little large. I'm just going to sneak this back using tracking a little bit, and there we go. So I found I just snuck it back on the tracking a little bit. It should be fine. And on this one, I'm just going to push that out a little bit here. And that all lines up. That looks nice. And there we are, all done. All right, I'm Paul Dayball from Niagara College, and I hope that helped on how to do some basics of InDesign. And there's what our final piece looks like. All right, have a nice day.